Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And I am so excited about making this video today. Today I want to talk about all of the series that I am, well, I don't want to say currently reading, because some of these I have not read in quite some time. But let me explain something to you first. Okay, so probably, I don't even know when it was, like probably 3 years ago, maybe even longer than that, maybe 4 years ago. When I started getting into cozy mysteries, maybe it was 5 years ago, I don't even know. When I first started getting into cozy mysteries, I started a list on my computer. I started keeping a list of all of the series that I was reading. Not just cozy mystery series, but all the series. And so I had made this list of like all the book series that I was reading, and then I had like who the author was, what book I was on, like how many I read out of how many there were. But I hadn't updated it in 5 years. So I've been wanting to transfer that list from my computer over to my phone, right? But it's not as easy as just like airdropping it. Like I had to go through and I had to go through and see which ones I want to keep on the list, which ones I'm probably not going to read anymore. For example, I was reading the Homecoming series, if you guys know about those books. I read the first one. I might go back and read some of the other ones. It's about kids that, like, you know, they're on their own, and then they go find this woman, they're living with her and all this kind of stuff. I might go back and read those. I don't know how many there are, but I read the first one. It was like I saw like a made-for-TV movie like years and years ago of it, and so I always wanted to read the book, and then I read the book, and I had that on my list. I also had the Harry Potter books on my list. I think I've read the first 4 out of 7. I am really not at a place in my life anymore where I really care if I ever finish those books, so I took those books off the list as well. I think all of the paperbacks, I have all the Audible versions of it, and in all honesty, I just don't really care if I ever finish the Harry Potter series. I have also not seen all the movies, but that's just kind of a decision I made. And so I had some other series on there as well that I'm just not as interested in reading anymore, but I went through there, some cozy mystery series as well. I had some listed on there that I wanted to read that I still haven't started to this day. So I went through that series. What was interesting was the first series that I had listed on there was the Misfortune series by Jana, Deleon, which, if you watch my videos, you know is my favorite cozy mystery. It's my favorite series of life. And when I went in there, I'm currently, right now, I am on book, I've read 26 out of 27 books. Actually, I think she just released her 28th book. And it's not on Audible yet, but I think she just released her 28th book. So I've read like 26 out of what will be 28. The last one I read was, I think, something Spies, Swamp Spies maybe? I don't know, but anyway, I think that was the last one that I read. And then I have Baskets and Beignets, and then I'm caught up as far as the ones that are on Audible, and I love listening to the Audible versions of it. So when I looked on my list, though, I was like on 19 or 18 or 17 or, I mean, I was like way back. Like that's how long it had been since, I think it was even like 10 or something. It was like how long I had been since I had updated this list. So what's funny about this is, if you go back in time to my very first booktube videos, which, like, this is how much things change from moment to moment, day to day, year to year, right? My first booktube videos, I always said, I do not like to read series. I don't like series. I never did. I never, until a couple years ago, ever liked to read series. I always liked standalones. And I would say that. I would say, I do not like to read series. I like to read standalones. I only like standalones. Now, I have to tell you, unless it's a standalone that's like a thriller and it's so fantastic, other than that, I really like to read series. In fact, when I read a first book and it's not yet a series, I'm like, I get to the end of it, and I'm like, I'm so hopeful that this will be a series. I love reading series because when I get attached to, you know, characters or a town or whatever, well, usually with cozy mysteries, if they write one, it's not like they're going to do a one and done. They're going to write other ones, right? But I get so attached to the characters and the towns, and I just fall in love with it. And so I'm hoping that there will be more, and they'll make it into a series. So today, I think I'm more of a series reader than I am a standalone reader. But about a week ago, I sat down in front of the computer and I went through my entire list. I got rid of the book. I think I actually left that list the way that it is in case I wanted to refer back to it. But I put a list on my phone. This way, when people ask me, because a lot of people, like, you know, in my personal life will be like, well, what series do you read? My neighbor and I across the street, we talk about cozy mysteries all the time. I can just break it out and I can tell you, oh, this is where I'm at or whatever. And so I went through each series that I was on the list, And I looked to see how many books there were out and what book I was on, or which book was my last one that I'd read. So I made a list of all of those. I also went through my Goodreads challenge for like the last 4 or 5 years and added series to that list that were not previously on the list. So the list that I have in my hand right now on my phone is my very conclusive book series list. It says book series list at the top. It's all the book series that I'm currently reading. Now, I know when I say this, somebody will be like, but Peter, what about this book series? And I'll be like, oh, damn, I forgot about that book series. So if I mention a series that's not on here, please let me know. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video selfishly. But I wanted to go through here. Now, I'm not going to throw up the books in this video. You can like write down if you're interested in this. If I remember what the series is about, I will tell you a little bit about it. But some of these, to be honest with you, I don't even remember a lot of the series. When I looked them up, I was like, oh, now I remember it, but a lot of them I do not remember. So I have on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. I have 29 series on here, okay, that I'm in some way, shape, fashion, or form reading a little bit or a lot of. So let's get into this. I'm just going to kind of go through them and tell you what they are, and if you guys like any of these, let me know. If you guys have never heard of any of these, you want to read some of them, let me know. If you have recommendations for series that you just cannot put down, please let me know as well. Okay, so the first one, obviously, is the Misfortune series by Jana Deleon. I have read 26 out of 27 books, which I think she just put the 28th book out. So I have Baskets and Beignets, and then I'm just totally caught up. Now, the Misfortune series, for those of you that don't know, I feel like I need to clean my reading glasses off. For those of you that don't know, it's about Fortune Redding, and she moves to the town of Sinful, Louisiana, and she befriends 2 older ladies, and their names are Idabelle and Gertie, and then she falls in love with Carter, who is the town sheriff, and every book is a different mystery, and she is a former CIA agent that is being hidden out in this small town of Sinful, Louisiana, at the beginning of the series, and then she finds out that these 2 older ladies that she's friends with used to be spies during Vietnam. And so they kind of start trying to solve mysteries in a small town together while not getting in trouble with her kind of boyfriend, Carter, who's the sheriff. And it's all about the town of Sinful, Louisiana. I mean, it goes to, like, New Orleans and stuff. The last book that I read, they were, like, in other countries and stuff like that. But that very rarely happens. Okay, the next one is the Dexter series by Jeff Lindsay. I have read 3 out of the 8 books. I used to, every time we would go to Miami, I would read one or listen to one. All these I've listened to on Audible. So my book club partner Mel is obsessed with the TV show Dexter. She's wanted me to try to watch it for years. My husband has watched all the Dexter show. He loves it. I tried to start watching it, and I really had a hard time getting into it, if you want to know the truth. But the books, I like. I like the books a lot. But apparently the series is just based on the first book. But I've read the first 3. They're not bad. The books, I wouldn't say are any... I mean, I've watched a couple of the episodes. Maybe I've watched half of the first season. I wouldn't say I think the books are any more detailed or less detailed than the show. It's just the way that because I started reading the first one before I watched the show. The way that I perceived Dexter to be was not how he was in the show. And sometimes, like, books ruin TV shows or movies for me and vice versa. So I think that's it for me, is that, like, when I watched the show, I was kind of like, this is not who I imagine for Dexter. It's, like, very much like back in the day, I read the Alex Cross books by James Patterson, and it was like, I think it was Morgan Freeman. I was like, I don't see Alex Cross as Morgan Freeman, you know? So it's like that with me for books sometimes and movies. Okay, the next one is The Country Store Mysteries by Maddie Day. I've read 2 out of 13. And I think when I stopped reading them, there were like 6 or 7 in the series. My neighbor across the street loves them. So I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. These books take place in Brown County, Indiana, which is like 10 minutes from Bloomington, which is where Indiana University is. It is beautiful down there. It's like what you imagine like fall and Halloween to look like is exactly what this town looks like. It's about this woman that goes, she moves, I'm not gonna be able to do synopsis of each of these books or these series, but anyway, she moves to this small town. I can't really remember why. I think like something happens and her mom passes away and she moves back there and she lives on top of this like diner slash vintage cookware store. And then in the first episode, the first book, a woman that she doesn't really get along with that well in town is found murdered in the downstairs of her diner with one of her world famous cheddar biscuits in her mouth. I love this series so much. I'm kind of surprised I've only read 3 of them, or 2 of them. The next one, and I also was surprised by this, the next one is the Sunshine Vikram books by Dorinda Jones, and I've read 2 out of 3 of those, and I loved both of those. The first one's called A Good Day, Bad Day for Chardonnay, Good Day for, I can't remember, but they're so good, and it's about this detective named Sunshine Vikram, and I love those books, so I'm going to read the third one and get caught up on those. And then I also read the Charlie Davidson books by Dorinda Jones. It's about a soul grifter, and I've read 1 out of 13. I did not realize there were 13 of those. I did not love those as much as the Sunshine Vikram ones. And then I read 1 out of 4 of Betwixt and Between by Dorinda Jones. I must have been going through this period where I really was like reading a lot of Dorinda Jones. I do like her writing style, and a lot of these cozy mystery writers have like several different series. Like Tanya Kappas, I think, has like 20 different series that she writes for. The next one is the Booktown Mysteries by Lorna Barrett, and I have read 1 out of 18, and I don't even remember what those are about. So those are the Booktown series. So I'll have to go back. I did, when I looked at them that night, I was like, oh, I remember reading this or whatever. The Stephanie Plum series by Jana Ivanovich, I've read 1 out of 31. Now I put it on the list because my friend Mel, she's read all of them. She loves Jana Ivanovich. I did not really, it's interesting because like with Cozy Mystery series, Mel loves the Misfortune series too, but usually the ones that I like are not the ones that she likes and vice versa. I had a really, really hard time getting into the first book, and I just didn't feel really attached to Stephanie Plum or the characters or anything like that, but I'm going to give it more of a try, because Mel told me you have to read a couple of them to really get into it. The next one these are some of my all-time favorite cozy mysteries, and if you're looking for a good series to read for Christmas, the 4th one is coming out in November. The 5th one is coming out in November. They are, each of them, so fantastic, and they are the Christmas Tree Farm Mysteries by Jacqueline Frost. And I thought that they stopped at like 4. I have read 4 out of 5. Wait, how many have I read? 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5? I've read 4 out of 5. So I've read all of them that are existing right now. The newest one comes out in November. They are so good. They're about a girl that moves home. I think she gets divorced or something like that. And she moves home. And I think her name is, it's something Christmassy, like Noel. I can't remember. But anyway, her parents run the Christmas Tree Farm in this very Christmassy town, and everything is Christmas themed, and they are fantastic. She changed publishers, so I think that's why like she's putting out a book now. I'm hoping that she will continue the series. Every time I mention her in a video, people always DM me, and they're like, oh, did you not know this, or did you not know she switched publishers, or this is, so I don't know, this might be the last book in the series, but I hope not, because I love it so much. The last one was really, really good. The Lucy Stone series by Leslie Meyer, I read 1 out of 30. I don't even know what those are. Haunted Library by Alison Brooke, I've read 1 out of 8, and I remember it, and I loved it. It's about a woman that works in a library, and she's doing like a Halloween-themed like party or something, and all this stuff happens, and the older lady that works in the library doesn't really like her and stuff like that, and she's like this ghost. It is paranormal, so she's like this ghost that's like helping her like solve this murder and stuff like that. I really like that. I actually read that when we went and rented a house in Florida, and that was like 5 years ago, so that's how long ago it's been since I read that series. Okay, The Leveling Up. I've actually talked about this quite a bit, and people were like surprised I like this series. It's called The Leveling Up series, Magical Midlife by K.F. Breen. I thought I'd read more than this, but I've read 2 out of the 9 books. So it's about a woman, and she goes to work for her friend's aunt that owns like a bed and breakfast out in the middle of nowhere. She's like, her kids are off college, she's divorced, and she's like, I'm gonna go do something different. Well, she goes to this town, and like everybody in this town, like after dark, is like a gargoyle, a witch, a vampire. I mean, it's like all that, and I love them. They are so funny, and they are so good. It's about this woman that's having a midlife crisis, and all of a sudden she's around all these magical creatures. They're fantastically done. And that is the Leveling Up series by K.F. Breen. The next one is the Underwater Investigation series by Andrew Mayne, and I've only read 2 out of 5, and I thought I was caught up on those. The first one is The Girl Underneath the Sea. I loved it so much. Okay, so it's about a girl, and she works for a woman. She works for the police department for Fort Lauderdale, and she does like scuba diving. So a lot of these cases, well, of the 2 books that I read, all have her scuba diving, looking for stuff. And they're fantastically done. He's actually written another series, I think it's called The Naturalist, and it's about a serial killer like in Colorado. also. And I've downloaded the first one of those, and I have never read it. So I have so many books that I haven't read. I have to do an Audible haul over here, because when you guys, I mean, I've literally in the last probably 2 months bought like 40 books on Audible. But that series is a really, really good thriller mystery series. It's really, really good. And that is The Underwater Investigation by Andrew Mayne. Okay, the next one is something that we started actually the first year of the True Crime Book Club before it was True Crime, and it was just like all different kinds of books. And it's White Trash Zombie by Diana Rowland, and I've read 2 out of 6 of those. So, I don't know how I had heard of these books. I think on BookTube somewhere, some guy was talking about it in a video, and so I picked the first one to read. Mel and a couple of my other friends have read the whole series, and they loved them. And it's about this woman, and I think she's like in a car accident or something. It's been so long since I've read that book. And she becomes a zombie, but she's like working, I think like in a bar for the coroner or something like that. Kind of like very much like iZombie. But they're very well done, and I loved the first one. Have I read 2 of them? I've read 2 of them. Okay, I love both of them. Oh, I put on here, now this is not a cozy mystery, this is young adult, but I love these. The Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. It's about this detective named Stevie, and she goes to I love the name Stevie, obviously, but she goes to this boarding school, and everybody has like, you know, one kid's like inventing a car, and another kid's doing like an art project, and they're all like geniuses, and she's like this genius detective. And so she goes to school. The first 2 books are about this crime that occurred on the campus like 80 years ago or something. Every other one after the first 2 are different. There was one at a camp. I did not realize the 5th one was out. I think it's called 9 Lies, and so I have read 4 out of the 5 of those. Okay, the next one is Secrets in Scrabble by Josh Lanyon. Josh Lanyon is actually a pseudonym for a woman, but she writes as a man and writes male-male romance. This was her dive into writing cozy mysteries. And so Secrets in Scrabble is actually a gay cozy mystery. There's not any sex in it or anything like that. It's about this guy, and his mom is like a famous actress, and he goes to run a bookstore on this small island off, I think, in New York. I read 5 out of 8 of them. They're fantastic, you guys. They are so good. They're some of my favorite cozy mysteries of life. I mean, if she's this good about writing male-male erotica as she is at writing cozy mysteries, I might have to try it out. But it's by Josh Lanyon, and it's the Secrets in Scrabble series, and I love them. I think the first one's called, like, Pirates at Buccaneer Bay. Or there's a lot of pirate stuff that goes along with these, because there's a lot of, like, old tales around this island and stuff like that. The next one is Tita Rosie's Kitchen by Mia Manasala, and I've read the first of the 5, and I think the 6th one is actually coming out like next month. I loved the first one. I think she's putting out like 2 a year or 1 every other year, and I started reading it like 5 years ago. They're fantastically done. Fantastically done. The next one is Aurora Tea Garden by Charlaine Harris, and I've read the first 2 out of 10. They were okay. They're, for me, what feel like, I liked them when I was reading them, but they, like, in retrospect, they're very, very just basic cozy mysteries. The characters, I like real eccentric characters that you can, like, know a lot about. Like, you know, I just didn't feel like they were that much. People have recommended that I, like, read or watch the Hallmark movies, but apparently Candace Cameron Bure plays Aurora Tea Garden, and I have no interest in watching Candace Cameron Bure in anything because she doesn't like gay people, and that's just, so that's my choice. So I don't really care to watch the TV shows, which is kind of a downer because I wanted to. But I probably will finish a series. The series is by Charlaine Harris that wrote the Sookie Stackhouse novels that were made into the show. Why can't I remember the show now? About the vampires. Why can't I think of what that show's called? First Bite or something like that. It's not First Bite. You know the show. Why can't I think of it? I love that show. But she wrote the Sookie Stackhouse novels. She is a fantastic writer. I love Charlaine Harris so much. So I might keep on reading them because of that. But that series is closed out and it's done. And I've read the first 2 out of 10. Camper and Criminals by Tanya Kappas. I did not realize that there were 37 books in the series. I read the first 7 out of 37, okay? I love this series so much. It's about this woman named Mae West, okay, which is hilarious, first of all. And she's married to this super rich guy that lives in New York City. And then they get divorced, and he basically leaves her with nothing. Except for that the only thing she gets in this divorce settlement is this campground in Kentucky about an hour from where she grew up. And so she goes back thinking that it's just like this nice campground, and she's going to turn it into something amazing, right? But when she shows up, it's like, it's crap. So her and the woman that's the campground manager that like smokes a mile a minute and is hilarious, and is like this older woman that's been like the manager, they become friends. Then she falls in love with like two different guys. They are so good, and they're very, very short too. Like, I mean, I think an Audible book, they're like 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. They're really short, and I love them. They are so good, and the mysteries are good in them too. The next one is the Hannah Swinson by Joanne Fluke. The first one I think I read, those are like the cupcakes for Christmas and whatever. The first one I read, I didn't really like at first, and then I really got into it later. So there are 30 of those, and I've only read one out of those, so I'll keep those up. And then there was a couple that I put on here that I've never read, like the Baker Street Mysteries by Valerie Burns. Oh, that was on the list of what that I've never read, because that's on the list of the books that we're reading together right now. The Outer Banks Bookshop by Alicia Bassett. That was a Smile Beach Murder. That was for Peter's Book Club in July. I just finished it. I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to read the second one. The second one is called Murder at Mustang Beach. And it just came out last year, so I don't know if she's putting out another one. There's no notice. I looked at her website and everything. She's married to Matthew Quick. Did you guys know that? That wrote Silver Linings Playbook. I've read tons of his stuff. I love him. But she doesn't have anything out anywhere that the third one's coming out. But what it did say was that you can read each of them as standalones. You didn't have to read them as a series. So if you're somebody that's interested in starting, because people always ask me what cozy mystery series to start with, that might be a good one, because there's two of them. They both take place in the same town. They both have the same main character, but you can read them both as standalones. So those might be a good one to start with. That's the Smile Beach Murder, The Outer Banks Mysteries by Alicia Bassett. The next one is The Vintage Cookbook by Ellen Byron. That's another one of the series that we're reading together. Then The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. That was a book that I picked for Peter's Book Club. I read 1 out of 4, and I loved that book so much. Like, I want to read all 4 of those. They're also making that into a movie. That would be another one if you like to, like, look, you know, book to movie adaptations. So they're making it a movie, and it has a fantastic cast in it, and I loved that book so much. And that book was so smart. It was a smart, cozy mystery. It reminded me a lot of the Misfortune series. Okay, then the next one is The Castle Knoll by Kristen Perrin, and I've read 1 out of 2, and I don't remember anything about it. The next one was Board Game Shop by C.J. Connor, and there's only 1 book out, and I've read that book because that was a book for Peter's Book Club, and I actually really, really liked that book a lot. It was about a guy that, like, worked in a game shop, and his family, like, owned the game shop, and then it was, like, going into debt. We read that a couple months ago. I actually, like, I wasn't thrown out by it. It was C.J. Connor's, like, first book. I didn't think it was the greatest book in the entire world, but, like, in retrospect, I would definitely read more in that series. I hope they put more out in the series, because I would love to read it. The next one is The Noodle Shop Mystery by Vivian Chen. Now, I thought I had read the first 2 of these. I didn't realize I only read 1. I actually even, like, reached out to Vivian Chen to ask if they're going to all be on Audible, because only the first 3 are, and that my audience loved them, because I would talk about it on the vlog, and I'd get so many people that would DM me and be like, oh my god, I love the Vivian Chen books, but she never messaged me back. But I was hopeful, but I loved that book so much, the first one. So if you want a really, really good mystery, cozy mystery, The Noodle Shop Mysteries by Vivian Chen, there's 11 of them. They're fantastic. And then the Liz Talbot one was, I think she just finished all these. I was not as taken. That's a good example. Like, that was the broiled lobster broil or whatever. We read it for Peter's Book Club. I read the first one. There's 11 of them. My neighbor across the street, she loves them too. Long Island broil or whatever. Anyway, the Liz Talbot books. I did not love it. Mel loved them. She's like, they are so good. She's like, I'm so in love with this. The last one, it's interesting because whenever I talk about this, like, it really splits people. Like, people either love these or they just I won't say hate them, but they don't like them at all. And it's the Shady Hollow series by Jana Black, and I've read 1 out of 5. So if you guys don't, they're cozy mystery series that take place in this hollow, but all the characters are animals. And so there's, like, a newspaper reporter, and then there's, like, a panda bear that runs, like, a restaurant. They're, like, all animals. So it's a cozy mystery that all the characters are animals. Now, if you can't kind of, like, get into that, I love anything to do with animals. If you watch or follow my Instagram, you know I'm always constantly putting up pictures of, like, little animals and stuff like that. If you can't get down with that, this probably isn't the books for you. I really, like, the first one, I thought was okay, but then towards, like, the end of it, and when I finished it, I was like, I can't wait to read the rest of it. She actually, I think, is putting out, like, I saw, like, a little Halloween or a little Christmas, like, novella about them. I really, really like it. And the characters are, I have to actually tell you, it's so funny because there are parts of that book that were actually kind of scary reading it, knowing, but it was just still about animals. Like, there's this one bird and she's, like, walking through the forest by herself, and it was kind of a scary moment. It was, like, very kind of, like, helter-skelter, you know, at the beginning, when the maid's going up to the door and stuff like that. But I liked them. I mean, I would tell everybody to try it once, unless you're, like, so pragmatic and serious that you can't imagine. I mean, she says, I think, at the beginning of the book, she's like, if you can't imagine that this is animals talking and walking, and then this is not the book for you, kind of thing. I mean, she says something like that. But I really liked it. And it's so funny how many of these books, like, in retrospect, looking back on, I ended up really loving. So those are all the series that I'm currently reading right now. Let me know what you're reading in the comment section below. Let me know if you're reading any of these, if you like any of these. Give me any suggestions for other series as well. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.